Alrighty, here's a problem that was asked by someone in your class, and it's problem number 1.4.55. Directions are to solve by completing the square, and you have 6x squared plus 11x and then equal to 7. Alright, so whenever you're completing the square, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that the coefficient of your squared term is 1. And if it's not 1, what you want to do is divide everything in the problem by whatever this number is in order to make it a 1, because we can't complete the square unless this is actually a 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide everything by 6. Okay, so divide by 6 on all of these, and I'll be left with x squared plus 11 over 6x, and then equals 7, 6. Okay, the next thing that we do in completing the square is we identify our b term, and b is, when you're talking about a quadratic in this form right here, ax squared plus bx plus c, b is the coefficient of your x. So that coefficient here is 11, 6. So if I list that out here, b is 11, 6. And what I'm going to do for the third step of this process is to take 11 sixths and multiply it by 1/2. 11 6 times a half, and I get 11 twelfths. Okay, so that is the third step of the process. And then the fourth step is to take that 11 twelfths and square it. Okay, and then that's going to give me a 121 over 144. This number right here, the 121 over 144, is going to be what I add to both sides of the equation, and that will actually allow me to complete the square. Okay, so it's going to look like this. We have the x squared plus 11 6x equal to 7 6, and I'm going to use a different piece of paper here. So it's going to look like x squared plus the 11 6, and then I'm going to add the 121 over 144 to both sides of the equation. So 7 6 plus 121 over 144. Okay, so what we're going to end up doing now on the right hand side is we're going to try and just collect like terms there. So we have two fractions, and then on the left hand side we're already going to go ahead and write it in the quantity squared form. Now, so because it actually happens this way on every problem, whatever your result is from step 3 of the process, where you take a half of your b, that number is actually going to go on the inside of your parentheses here. So it's actually going to end up being x plus 11 twelfths is what that will factor into. When you have really nasty fractions like this, it's pretty difficult to see what you would put in here. But it's always going to be the 11 twelfths that comes from that third step. This number right here is what you add to both sides, but this is the number, and whatever sign you have here as well is what goes on the inside of the parentheses. This is positive, so we have positive right there. Okay, so that's equal to, over here, if we take the 7 over 6 and multiply by 24 over 24, that will give us a common denominator, because the common denominator on the right hand side is 144. Okay, so what we want to do now, let's get a number on the right hand side. So 7 times 24 is 168. We have over 144, and then plus 121 over 144. Okay, and then now I can bring my numerators together. So this is x plus the 11 twelfths, whole thing squared, equaling 168 plus 121 is 289 over 144. All right, at this point what I can do is I can actually take the square root of both sides, because I have a quantity squared, and when I take the square root of something squared, that thing is going to just pop out Okay, and that's the whole reason for doing this process here. So if I take the square root of both sides, because I have the square root of something squared, this inside piece is just going to come out as x plus 11/12. And then the square root of 289, I believe is 17, but let me check it. Yeah, is 17. And the square root of 144 is 12. Now this is actually going to be a plus or minus because we've taken the square root here. And we don't actually know. So we're going to be, because we've used the square root as an operator, we're going to end up with a plus or minus there. So I would now subtract the 11/12 from both sides. Oops, sorry. Subtract the 11/12. And so we have x is equal to negative 11/12 plus 17/12. Okay, plus or minus. Now, that's actually two different things. This is negative 11/12 plus 17/12, and negative 11/12 minus 17/12. So you should do both of those. Up here, this is going to become negative 11 plus 17 is 6/12, which is a half. Okay, and then this one right here, negative 11 minus 17, that's a negative 28/12, which will reduce. Let's see, 4 will go into both of those, so this is negative 7/3. So 1/2 and negative 7/3 would be what, these are what x equals. Okay? All right.